Hey, it's Mark. So I went through some of my scans and I focused on the momentum scan and I also focused on some dry bulk shippers and I ended up finding a lot of Bitcoin miners too in Bitcoin digital asset type companies. Those were in the Momo scans. So I went through probably maybe 50 or 50, 75 of these momentum charts pretty much with the RSI, like I sorted by RSI. So I looked at the highest RSI, and the good ones were pretty much above like 90 RSI too. And I found some different stuff here with the Bitcoin and the miners. Like I found some that I knew for the past that I didn't really know were in that business, or they just switched the name or something. But the I talked about this one in the past too, the cores. This one is actually a digital asset miner. I think it's Bitcoin. And of course, all of those today were up on a lot of volume and a lot of gap ups. So I haven't actually checked Bitcoin today. I just kind of do these videos when I do my scans, because I do the scans anyway every night. So usually every night I scan a bunch of my filters, scans, and so I figure I might as well do videos, on what I'm seeing. So yeah, it looks like Bitcoin wasn't up crazy today. I guess it's just front running on these. Well, it's just there's just been a lot of sector strength in these in the miners and the digital asset companies. So there's just a lot of sympathy plays like the NE is just going crazy now. Like I actually found that one back here. Like on one of these first days it broke that flag back like a couple weeks ago, and it was pretty crazy today. And so I guess I'll just go through these Bitcoin ones and these miners since I'm talking about them. So yeah, the new ones I found this DAPP, which is interesting. It's an ETF, and it's the VanEck digital transformation ETF. So the top holdings are Coinbase, MicroStrategy, Block, Marathon, Galaxy, CleanSpark, Riot, Northern Data, Iris. So it's pretty good, pretty diversified, even though it's got a lot in Coinbase, which is kind of strange or not really ideal, but it's 11% of it's in Coinbase. But it's tracking the industry really well, so that's good for me. And I looked at the volume on this one, and it's pretty similar to the other ETF, this BITQ, based on the share price and volume, and they're really close as far as how much they trade a day. And they both look really liquid. I mean, they both trade pretty well with liquidity. Like the average volume on the DAPP is 175,000 shares a day, and the BITQ is 147,000 shares a day, and the prices are pretty similar, so roughly about the same volume and flows coming in. But I think I'm gonna see if these have options because these seem like a better bet unless we can catch one of the next top performers like I did with the NE or ANY. And I did find some new ones today. I found, in addition to those two and the cores, because I didn't know cores was even a miner. I thought it was like a pharma company or something like, because I think it was years ago and they changed the business model or something maybe. So I can't really vouch for investing in any of these, because I haven't really done a lot of research on them. But for trading this year and maybe in 2024, it looks pretty good. like the halving for Bitcoin's coming up soon, like this year or next year, I think. So I think it's like a year at least. And historically, when they do the halving, the price just really goes up a lot, and that's kind of the way Bitcoin works. Like you look at it over the past decades, or the past decade, past the past decade, it's always pretty much always gone up on when they do the halving. So, but the other one I found was this wolf, and I think I'd seen this one too in the past, but it's really interesting because the volume is really strong today, and there might be a short covering, but I think the thing to do is probably find the ones with the highest short interest. I'm not sure if any actually had the highest short interest, but maybe that's a good way to kind of prioritize. I'm just gonna double check that. No, the any wasn't heavily shorted, but it sure acted like it was a squeeze. It's just how much the momentum's been in these miners, and I just can't ignore them because the momentum is just incredible. And they keep popping up in my scans too. So the wolf is good. Is another good one. Just on the gap up. Usually there's a gap up like that, it has a good chance to continue. Like gap ups and gap downs are the most powerful, if not one of the most powerful chart signals as far as technicals go. Gap ups and gap downs, well, they call them runaway. Well, really, runaway gaps and runaway gap downs are the most powerful charts that's out there. Like a runaway gap would be if it gapped up again. So if it just keeps gapping up and up and up, it usually happens with commodities. It's more like a commodity thing, but with these like thinner commodities and stuff, but it can happen in stocks too. I mean, not as much though. It's usually more like thin stuff or like a pump or something. And the other one's BITF. Like I think I talked about this one in the past. Like I found it a while ago, but I never traded it because it just seemed like it was up a lot when I found it. Because I found it back on this pop up there. And it was actually one of the few ones that was moving a lot then, like early on as far as percentage gains. And it just came off a flag really strong too. So it's actually got some pretty good technicals here because it broke over that level there, right there. So it's technically a bottom. It bottomed out, and it's just got more upside at this point. And the other one's ARBK. I think I might have mentioned this one in the past, but it's really nice too. It hasn't had a huge run comparatively to other ones, but it's kind of got some funky candles going on, but it had a lot of volume today too. And I found this one a while back too, the DMGGF, because I just had it on my watch list. So I consolidated all these blockchain miners and Bitcoin miners into one watch list. So because it's worth having on a watch list now, all these. So this one's been strong too, and it's a really low price penny stock. So it could even go more. And you see it had a big run in 2020, 2021. And it's a pretty new issue, looks like. Like they just issued shares like 2018. I guess that's kind of old for considering, but the other one's BTBT. And I had this on a watch list too, and I saw it in one of my scans because I think I didn't have it on my main watch list, so I put it back on here, and it can run too. Like it's had some good runs. Like basically it ran there. It had another run there too, a momentum run. So it's going again. It's going again now. And of course it too had really high volume. It's actually one of the volume was really high considering its average. So I'm gonna look at the options on these later and see which ones have more liquid options. But I might just go with the ETF. But we really need to see a breakout though for all these. Like they very well could consolidate, but if they break out, over the highs of today, I think that's a setup. Those are setups like all these, especially like Wolf. If it goes over 290 tomorrow, it's set up on a breakout, especially if it gaps up. But gap ups can be tricky sometimes with stocks, but the way things go now, you kind of have to look at the technicals and just expect the technicals to work because that's what they've been doing lately. So it's kind of been an ideal environment for me because I do really have a good eye for these momentum patterns, as you can see if you see my watch lists and stuff. So I've kind of honed in on a couple patterns for my long bias stuff. So it's kind of nice to we can trade this now because in 2022 it was just pretty boring, really. Like even though there's like a lot of volatility or the VIX was a little higher, like the downsides weren't even that great most days. So yeah, the last one's any. Of course, we know that one. And it basically almost had runaway gaps. Like it gapped up there, and but if it keeps gapping up, you get the idea. It's a runaway gap. But we might even start to see these in some stocks, certain sectors. So the other ones I looked at were the shippers. Well, the dry bulk shippers, the ETF broke out today. The BDRY. So yeah, that's the BDRY. That's one of the ETFs that's tracking it really good. The dry bulk. So it broke out today, and it held that trend support really well. So it just keeps holding it and breaking out. So, and this one actually had runaway gaps, like you see it did 1, 2, 3 times. But this one looks good too. Like a lot of the kind of lower price stocks that I try to focus on usually in the shipping sector or industry, they weren't as good. Like a lot of them are near the highs still, but the setups just don't even look as good as the ETF, honestly. Like even some of the higher volume ones, the higher priced ones. So I'm just gonna find my shipper ETF here. There we go. I've got a lot of watch lists now, and the ship actually. Well, it's funny. Yeah, the ship's kind of tracked it the most here, and I was talking about that one in a video like a week or two ago or weeks ago, because it had that triangle going. I found this triangle like around there, and so maybe ship's actually one of the better ones tracking it, but it's kind of been an underperformer over the years, and I assume the fundamentals aren't as good as others, but it seems to be tracking the ETF really well. I know this one has options, but I'm not sure how liquid they are. And like some of these are just kind of messy, like TK. Like I was saying, like a lot of these other ones on my watch list aren't really looking as good. Like, I mean, the GOGL is still holding up there, and it's actually one of the better looking charts. 'Cause this one's always been one of my favorites. It's kind of just hanging up there around breakout area. Another one, another interesting one was the EGLE, and it looks like a flag here. Like you look at the volume, the sell volume days are pretty light, so it's kind of a messy flag, but we'll see. It's not really much of a pattern, but it's done some wacky stuff. Like it had this full flag there, so that one's good to watch. And of course the ETF and GLBS is just up so much, it's kind of stalling out. So that's pretty much what I just looked at, and I found another interesting one in my scans. I found this LILM, which is basically the same setup as that other biotech. I think it was the ADCT. So this one's got trend support. You know, good volume days on these big days. You know, the volume's really good, unusually high, and it's got this trend support that it just keeps finding, and it found it again. It's kind of a rough trend support because it's got the lows are like kind of all over the place, but that's definitely a flag that just broke right there. So that flag broke really yesterday. So that might be kind of a gift that it's not up so much already, because it tends to gap up too. When you look at, see how it gapped up there, it might gap up again. But yeah, this one looks really good. I mean, this is probably one of my top watches. This is like one of my top watches now, just on the chart setup. I think it's like in the defense industry. It's like an aerospace defense is the industry. It's a small company. Well, not too small, but pretty small. 684 million market cap. And it's research and development of electric vertical takeoff and landing aircrafts and jets used in high-speed air transport systems for people and goods. It's actually a German company, so that's kind of neat, because the Germans are really good at manufacturing, and they make some good stuff. And they're kind of the powerhouse, really, of Europe. It's like an understatement. Their manufacturing. They manufacture and sell all over the world. So that's kind of nice that this is like an ADR. So it's an ADR, and it's a German company. I was looking at the news feed here because it's kind of interesting now. Some of battery cells. Well, it looks like I'm not seeing, there's no revenue on this, so let's see if there's actually revenue. That's weird. Yeah, there's no revenue. Well, that's not good. But the stock's going up, so I guess they have some good guidance, maybe. There's 7 analysts on it. It's a lot for a small company like this. Yeah, the losses look pretty bad. Like the losses are forecast to expand. Looks like they do have, there's growth estimated here. It's interesting. But this is Yahoo, so it may not be perfect. But, well, I think it's definitely a trade. So it's not like an investment because there's no revenue. But it's a trade off that flag. Yeah, and the stock hasn't done too well either. Yeah, I'd say best case it goes up to that. Maybe we look at like 190, because that was a previous level that it failed at. really about 170 is a big level because it's back here too. So yeah, 170 could hit if this flag goes, but it needs to hit over. If it goes over 130 tomorrow or 131, it's a setup long. So I usually go a couple pennies over just because sometimes they just send it a penny over to kind of fake out and you chase the breakout and then they reverse it. So you want to see it hold the breakout level. And the shot's been good too. I've talked about this one like a lot in the past, really. I'm still long the puts, and those might be close to paying. I think I got the $3 strike, but this thing's coming down. Like it's about to test that support there. So it's kind of an indication the relative strength's been weak too. Like the stock is going down the past month and a half roughly, while everything else is going up. Like literally everything. Even some of the craziest companies. Like I've seen like a lot of these cyclical like kind of Momo stocks that go in bull markets, like the 8 is it's usually you just see it run in bull markets, or off the bottom of a recession or something. Like it's like 10 years ago. I remember it was a good runner back like a long time ago. Like it had a good run in 2020, of course. But it's even farther back. It had some good runs. Yeah, see, I was actually just thinking of 2013 when it ran. Back in 2012 and 2013, it went up like from 3 or 4 to 12. So it's a pretty good 400 bagger, good percentage move there. But that's when it just never stopped. It just kept going and going and going. Like the GSAT can do that too. That's why I put that on my watch list. I think it's actually cooled off here finally. But GSAT can run and run. Like I mentioned it like last year or 2 years ago and it didn't run, but yeah, it can surprise you how much it can keep going and going. It's one of those. There's like a few stocks like that, or several, that they just keep ramping and ramping. So yeah, those are the main things I found in the scans, and I haven't looked at the indices yet, so we'll just go over those real quick. Yeah, the IBB was really good. As I was thinking it would be. Like I put on my Twitter account, like I put a post on about the Bristol Myers merger or acquisition. They've bought like 2 companies in the past week, so the speculation that the merger and acquisition is going to continue is obviously what could be propelling these stocks. Can only help. So you see that a lot. A lot of times stocks go up before they're bought out. Whether that's inside information or I don't know, but maybe it's a coincidence. But I've seen that a lot of times too, especially in like smaller biotech or biopharma. The stocks will just start uptrending, and there'll be some volume come in, and then, then a week later or 2, they get bought out. So the IBBs are looking just really strong. Momo still. Like a lot of times when you see long candles like that, it means it's going to keep going. That's why I added some stocks. I added one stock with a long candle. I think it was one of the miners. Yeah, I can't think of it right now. Let me just look at the miners real quick. There was one that just had a long candle today. I found it in a scan. I may not have added it because there's really just there's so many setups. There's just too many so many breakouts. That's why I think I'm just gonna do with the ETF. Go with the ETFs. So yeah, the indices we got most most importantly to me is the Nasdaq. Is just yeah, it just keeps floating up, floating up, up and up. So it really only had that one big red day. Just crazy momentum still. And let's look at, yeah, XHB was up a little bit too. I've got those calls still. So I'm looking for a good move on XHB for these calls to print. So I've got like the 90, I got the 100 strike for like a couple weeks out. So if you look at the history, it's had huge runs, huge days. Like I had a big day there, and that was a big day because it gapped up a lot. Then it gapped up a lot there, and had a big run day. Spike there off the consolidation. It's always off this consolidation too. So last time it had two kind of weekdays before the pop. So I'm looking for probably pop tomorrow. Really, if it's gonna pop, it's gonna go tomorrow. But I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe it could even fake out and then go. But the setup is definitely that it's gonna go higher, and the Redfin's kind of following, and the open. Like I put these on my Twitter account too. Open's kind of sketchy here, but it's been kind of sketchy on some of these days. Because I think it has a really high short interest. And I added the industrials because the industrials are breaking out too. And it's just got a really good trend support. It's not quite as quite as quickly like it's kind of slow and steady, so that's kind of nice. And small caps kind of the same thing. I haven't looked at the at ES in a while. I think ES is probably doing the same kind of stuff, breaking out. Let's see what ES is doing. Yeah, really slow. There's really no range today. But that's what it's done, before runs. Like back here, the day range was like it barely moved, up or down, and it's doing it the past couple of days too. So that's a good thing, really. Like, if there's gonna be a reversal, it's probably gonna be like a spike day down, like that, like everybody thought that, or we thought that was gonna be. So that's about it as far as the stuff I'm looking at. Like I'll still look at crude oil, and I looked at bonds too, and there's a really good breakout on TLT today. And I imagine junk bonds too. Yeah. Yeah, see if high yield bonds, if junk bonds keep going up too, that's really bullish. I noticed that was just something that pointed to the market's going up, like if junk bonds can go up too. So it's like broke out that level there. So yeah, technically it's off to the races here, and of course rates are gonna impact that, but they're just going higher, and the crude oil, my feed's doing some wacky stuff on crude oil there, but yeah, it's interesting. Crude oil hasn't really participated, and it looks It's definitely set up. It's setting up for a bear flag, really. Like it's been doing these bear flags like back there, and the fact that it didn't break over this level there, and it's my level, but it's a pretty good. Looks like a good level there. And you could it might even be a little lower, but that was the level back here, and I think it goes back even farther. Yeah, see that level there goes back to like 2022 off of that. So it was roughly like 71 on USO. So yeah, 72 was like about the high. So yeah, it couldn't hit 72 really. So could be setting up for a bear flag like that. So that's kind of interesting, and it's really kind of actually ideal for the economy because if crude oil prices go down, that's pretty good. It's going to be good for consumer spending. You know, I'm I don't do like econometric models on that stuff, but you can do like the models in like back in like 2007, 2008. That was one of the things that surely contributed to the pinch in the consumers, like because oil was up a lot. Plus you got the you got the adjustable rate mortgages and stuff, but yeah, usually you'd see oil up before a recession. It's funny how that works, like, but at least that's because I remember 2008 like yesterday, and crude oil was up a lot. Like the gas prices were high. I think it was from 2000, like late 2007, 2008, or early. It was definitely early 2008. Crude oil was up a lot. So, but this is pretty nice because it's going down, and it's kind of a messy setup right here. But if it breaks that, if it has like a huge gap down or something, it looks like a setup because it's just downtrending. And I haven't checked DNA because I've still got these calls too. Like I have a lot of stuff on, but it's just doing this wacky triangle, like it's almost like a stair stepper flag because it just the flag just goes up instead of down. And I found a chart that looked just like that too, like another stair stepper, but I've seen a lot of those break out. They're usually pretty good breakouts, but it's kind of messy, really. Like it's not super good looking here, but it's still holding up there. That's like a biotech, but gold's gold's pretty much back on its trend support it's had for a while, and it looks like it actually broke out. I mean, this isn't the futures. I think GC is the ticker for yeah. So yeah, gold's breaking out. The futures are up. It's actually doing gap ups too. Like second day in a row, it's gapped up. Like you see that a lot more in commodities and futures. So that's cool. I gave a little lesson on gap ups and gap downs too. It goes the same for gap downs. They're a really powerful signal usually. They can be. So yeah, let's see what Hood. Man, oh yeah, Hood's like whoa, Hood just poked above that level there. Nice little like triangular flag there. It's pretty interesting. I guess a lot of institutional funds are coming into that one, but I think they're gonna get bought out someday. So yeah, it's over resistance. If it holds like one more day, like if it's up tomorrow, it's probably a really good setup long on if it's up tomorrow, but we gotta see if it holds this level. So that's it. I went through a lot of stuff, and there's even more I could go through, but can't do like an hour video, so I'll just call it a wrap there, and I'll probably put one out tomorrow too, and I'll keep putting stuff on my Twitter as I see setups, because I usually put the setups on my Twitter like immediately. So if I see a setup, if I see a good setup, I put it on Twitter, and this is my Twitter, so it's at stock pursuit, stock under slash pursuit, and there've been a lot more people replying and like engaging with me here on this platform. Like maybe that's just a sign that retail investors are really interested in stocks again too, or probably a little bit of both. Just that I'll get more reach now, and I get a lot of comments, and I really like them because I like to help people out, and like I'll answer about any question. Like I just answered a question the other day, and because there's not a lot of help, or there's not a great amount of help for retail investors, especially if you don't have like millions of bucks. So it's hard to find good info out there, really. Like even on YouTube, or the good information is very limited still in finance and like in trading and investing. I'd say more. It's easier to find investing information, but if you're trying to find like really good professional trading advice, it's really hard. Like I used to watch the SMB Capital videos because they probably had some of the best, some of the best info, and I don't know if they're what exactly they do, but I mean how it all works. But they had some good videos, SMB Capital. But yeah, I'll just end it there, and catch you next time.